Show, and we have Mayor John Henry with us, and you brought the infrastructure director Byron Landfair with you, and we've been talking roads and drainage and collection ponds and all that other kind of stuff. Byron, what is one area that you, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
That's why we brought him.
You mentioned, I think you said 7 different departments that fall under your deal. What is in roads, and probably one of the most aware that people are, but what's one of the departments that you oversee that doesn't get a lot of attention, hopefully for good reasons,
Yeah.
that people aren't aware of, that really is kind of an important part of Artesia?
Well, there's a couple of things there that when I came on board, I had a very detailed knowledge of roads, water, sewer, plants, all that stuff. And the two that surprised me the most, believe it or not, was trash. Because it's the hardest one to get right and the easiest one to get wrong. And then the other one was the cemetery. And in a place full of deceased folks, there's a lot of emotion out there, and you'd be surprised what you go through on all that. And I think it's the quiet work that you see from the big chunk of the group as a whole. Because I tell my guys all the time when I go out to talk to them and stuff like that, we're not as flashy as some of the other departments. On our best day, you don't even know we're here. It's only when we're having a bad day that you know that we're here. Because that means you got up this morning, you took a shower, you flushed your toilet, you got on a road that you can get to work with, and your trash disappeared most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
and without hardly any notice or thought to it. And so it's the hard work that those guys do out there that creates that. The parks are a very high visible thing that we do, and usually in tougher economic times, those are the first ones that suffer the most. And so the last couple of years, they took a pretty good sized hit in there. We reduced our staff by 50% out there, and they were still trying to cover the same ground that they were covering before, and you just can't quite get there. We're slowly building that back up so that we can take control of our stuff, and we have a very blessed community that we have some benefactor here that does some wonderful stuff for us, but we still have to take care of it, right? My facility guys got to take care of the pool. We got a really top-notch soccer football complex that needs a little different care than normal grass. And so things like that need to get done amongst just the average daily mowing 180 acres that's under irrigation.
Right.
And so it takes all of it. And I argue that the guy who picks up the trash and is just as important as the guy that goes out there as the director for the department. And because we need all those pieces to work for us to have a community that works out there. My treatment plant is kind of an unsung hero out there that nobody knows about. It does what you think it does, but not in the way you think it does. And
there's a lot of science involved in
It's a big chemistry set out there.
Yeah.
And my life is driven by microscopic bugs and keeping them happy out there, because that's what makes the whole thing work. But if she has a very bad day out there and we illegally discharge raw sewage, a minor evaluation is about $25,000 a day. A major, if we hit the river with it, is $250,000 a day.
Yeah.
And it takes about 7 days to make any changes to the plant out there, because it's a 7-day process from beginning to end. And so you can start to see the problem out there. And those folks out there operate it, keep it in process. We've been staying in permit. We have 2 permits that governs our life. One of them was what we call EPA Region 6. There's the feds out of Dallas that governs the river discharge. And then the MED, New Mexico Environmental Department, governs our ground discharge, because we recycle 100% of the water basically from March to October. And it goes into our parks. And that's how this community is able to afford the level of parks that it has, because we couldn't do it with water.
Right. With fresh water, or new water, or whatever.
Right. We just couldn't simply afford to do that and save the fresh water for our economic growth. And so, because when I first got here, we did a comparison. The park level that we have normally has a population of about 75,000 with the level of park that we have.
Oh, okay.
Sheer acreage that's under irrigation.
Well, we like parks, though, apparently.
And that's the thing,
Yeah,
right?
so if we like them, we're going to have them. We got to take care of them, or not have them. And
that's correct.
yeah, when you say you moved to Artesia, where did you move from?
Roswell.
Roswell. Is that where you were born and raised, or
I was born in a place called Del City, New Mexico,
okay?
and I was raised there up to about 10 or 11 years old, and then we moved to Roswell.
Okay, I have to admit I've heard of Del City, Texas.
They're the same place.
Oh, but you said New Mexico.
Because I was on the New Mexico side.
Oh, okay. So it straddles the state line. Okay, I didn't know that was. Is there a Del City, New Mexico post office?
That's been a lot of years ago, Gene. I couldn't tell you that. My dad and my grandfather at the time worked on what was the Diamond A Ranch.
Okay, so a ranch family, and still have family down in that part of the woods, or?
No, they're pretty much all moved out of there. I got a chunk in Roswell, and the rest of us kids are scattered around.
Okay. And was it the job that brought you to Artesia, or were you looking to come to Artesia, or how did that all kind of wind?
It just kind of came together. I was working down here, and an opportunity opened up, and that's where I was. I worked in this community for probably about 8 years before I came to work for the city itself.
Okay.
As a contractor in various forms.
Yeah. Well, most people I talk to are glad you're here. And all that. What are some of the bigger projects coming up? I know the mayor and the council approve things, and you probably sit and go, really, we're going to do that? But I'm sure you have some suggestions, and your departments have some suggestions too. So what are some other things that we can look forward to that'll be coming from the departments that you
Phase 3 of the industrial park is slated to begin at the end of the month.
Okay.
And so we're out of ground out there in the industrial park. It's kind of an economic driver is what its intention is out there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're spending about $4 million out there on that expansion out there, and we got a matching grant from the Department of Commerce, and it's one of the larger grants that's ever gotten in this part of the community, and so we were able to get that, and the staff did a very good job of getting that out there. 26th Street is the next big one in the infrastructure program that's designed to come out. That's about 60% designed at the moment.
Okay.
I get a lot of asks about what the road section will look like. It'll remain 2-lane from the bridge to Main Street. A lot to do with right-of-way problems and some elevation problems and stuff like that. And it's kind of like the road between here and Riverside. The bridge is your choke point, and it's extremely expensive to widen that bridge or replace that bridge.
right?
Even though it's not what you call a very tall bridge, I think its clear depth is about 8 feet, but
Bridges are expensive.
they are extremely expensive. And then from the bridge south, it's going to be a 3-lane with a dedicated center turn left.
Okay.
And then we're going to have an expanded walkway over on the east side that connects to the walkway there next to the draw that kind of eventually get you over to J.C. Park.
Yeah. So that'll be very much anticipated and appreciated with all the growth that's been in that part. And then do you ever get the chance just to kind of just drive around the different neighborhoods in Artesia and come back to the council and say, this road here or this neighborhood here probably should get some attention? Is that part of what you get to do?
Quite regularly. Now, we didn't do it the last couple of years because of COVID. The road maintenance, we're going to do a road maintenance job this year. It's about $1 million worth. It comes from gas tax and from general fund, and that's one of the reasons it competes with everything else in your general fund. And we're going to spend about $1 million in what I call the Southeast Quadrant. Along with that, we're going to try to get another CDBG project, Community Development Block Grant project, to assist us with the ADA ramps, and because they're fairly expensive, so it'd be add another $750 to that. And as part of that, we'll do a road valuation in this section of the town. I've already got a major hit list of the ones I want to look at and to get taken care of. And then we'll do a road valuation, and then based on the road valuation, we'll determine on what we do with the road, whether it's a rehab, remove and replace, or just what we call a mill and fill, where you take off a couple inches and you fill it back up.
Yeah.
And so, we're going to get back into those. I try not to do the maintenance projects where the big projects go, because it's tough enough for us to circulate traffic When you got the bid projects, if you're constantly closing various roads in the same area, it's
It's a little eerie.
you're going to drive you out of town.
Yeah.
Probably is what you'll end up doing.
Yeah.
But the intention this year is to do the southeast quadrant, hit the big ones that we need to do in there. Most of the roads that have up-to-date water lines have already been done. So the ones that need attention now need the water line work typically.
Mm-hmm.
And so that slows the whole thing down, and you think $1 million will go a long ways. When you start doing water and everything else to go with it, you'd be surprised how fast that money gets soaked up.
Yeah. All the new growth and everything that's happened is and you mentioned the wastewater treatment plant, but you got to get it there from where it starts.
Right.
And there have been a few little issues with some of that here recently, but overall, how would you assess that system?
The collection system's in fairly good shape. There's been some big advancement and some big pieces that came in here that we probably went overlooked. There was a big interceptors that the feds helped pay for that went up the draw all the way out to the gun range. And so that helps a lot because it was designed for what was needed and for future use. And so it was a fairly decent sized line. And so it helps. That helped a lot with a chunk of the community. Where we're starting to see the stressor points is obviously where the growth is happening out there in the West Acres and Stone Drake area, and that's why I'm starting to prepare looking at that. Right now, it's running about 75% capacity during peak flow, and so you're not completely there yet. But at 75% capacity, if you have a hiccup in the old line, it doesn't take long for it to become a problem that everybody notices.
Yeah. And I think the last thing I'd ask you a little bit about, you've been here through the water
Yes, sir.
incident, I guess, for lack of a better word. I still say somebody was sticking their thumb in our water samples, and but that was a really trying time because the city was trying to figure where is it coming from and how do we make it go away and stop happening, and then how do we treat from there. How's our freshwater and with the chlorination and the wells and all that kind of stuff? How are we doing? I don't hear anything about it, so I'm assuming everything's
so far,
good.
if I can find some wood to knock on.
I usually knock on my head.
We've added the chlorination system to the chagrin of some in the community. The disinfectant has been working very well. Again, we don't know where the source is. Your observation could be more correct than wrong. There's no way for me to know for sure.
Yeah.
Only thing we know for certain is only well that did test for it is what we call the 26th Street well, which is over there off of 26th and Grand. And we have not put that well back in service. Now, whether we feel it's jinxed or we just don't want bad luck or whatever it is, we just didn't put that well back in service.
Yeah.
And we're in the process of relocating that well out to the Bulldog tank, most likely. And so part of that is when this system was designed, it was designed to be direct injected by the pumps and pushed out to the tanks, which is not really wonderful for chlorine contact time.
Right.
So for your chlorine to work, it works over contact and time, concentration and time. So if you have less time, more concentration. If you got more time, less concentration is how it works. So you really want to go to a tank first. So when we did the booster system out at JC, I put a tank in. The main reason I put the tank in there is for the boosters, but also to get the contact time for the chlorine. So when I relocate this well, I'm going to relocate it out next to the Bulldog tank so it can go directly to the tank and give me some contact time.
But knock on wood, everything's been testing good, testing properly since.
Yeah, and we haven't even had any coliform hits. I think we've had one coliform hit in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Which you're going to see a little of that when you start working on your water lines, because invariably you get a little dirt in your water line, and that's where your coliforms come from.
So as new neighborhoods come online or new construction comes on, that's where you keep an eye out for that possibility.
We have some very stringent requirements that they have to disinfect, provide us clean samples before they turn us on. But it's like in anything, once you put the system on and you start moving water in volume, is just if you had a little bit of dirt or something stuck in there, then it starts getting spread out.
Yeah. I think the phones are ringing because I think our Roswell station's come back online, and so it's calling me to let me know, hey, I'm back.
Gotcha.
So the XL people were pretty good. They said they'd have it by 9, and it's just before 9.
There you go.
Gosh, we could spend even more time and lots of questions with Byron Landfair, the infrastructure director. But Mayor, before we run out of time completely, anything from the council meeting last night of note that you'd like to share?
You know, a lot of what Byron has talked about, we visited about, obviously. I think that the community needs to realize how lucky we are to have some of the folks we do. I mean, Byron, you're right. This has been an interesting conversation, and I wish people would understand more of. It's interesting. Every time I go to his office, he tells me about another intersection or another this or another that I've probably driven past it a million times and never paid attention. And then once we have that discussion, I go, look, like you said, 26th and Grand it has a weird, what's the word I'm looking for?
Drainage.
Yeah, elevations and drainage. And
right.
I've never thought about it before, but then I go look at it and I thought, oh, I see it. It's one of those things. And I really wish the community would understand how lucky we are to have these folks out there and the expertise that we have. I mean, I still want to get the wastewater treatment in here because she's fascinating. It is an incredible science on how this works and how much pride she takes in her job. And folks need to realize that. They think, oh, well, they just don't care. The trash folks don't care. They didn't pick up my trash. Man, I would argue against that every second of the day. They care immensely in what they're doing. They take great pride. Do hiccups happen? 100%. Nobody can be perfect. And it's, as Byron said, that's the only time it seems like people are, well, I can't. Okay, but for the other 364 days it worked. So remember that. Let's forget about, but we understand those frustrations. But yeah, I think the city should be so excited at the expertise and the pride that Byron's group and many of the other groups take in how they serve the city and what they do for the city. So I know that doesn't go towards that, but I did want to add that on. That's really important. The one different thing that I'll say real quick that folks might be interested in. The police chief did bring one of our new cruisers, I guess is the right word, units to the meeting last night so we could take a look at it.
They found one.
They did. Yeah, we found 2. So, hey, we're cruising.
Yeah.
There you go. No pun intended. We're getting 2 new ones. They look great. Lots of cool updates on it. Lots of cool things that they do with it. So excited to see that. I know they've got some more stuff on order that hopefully will come in. I think folks are kind of starting to see maybe cars a little bit in other communities that I'm talking to. I think any kind of big equipment, we're in a whole lot of trouble. We talked about that last week as far as on the fire trucks. And I mean, we could be looking at 3-4 years before some of those get here.
That's just crazy.
It is crazy. So any kind of big stuff. I know we got a trash truck a couple weeks ago, which is really lucky because, if we tried to get one of those today, there's no telling how long it would take to. In fact, it might have just passed. It was a good-looking truck that passed, if y'all didn't notice. But yeah, so we're in good shape. Things are starting to come in. Really excited to see the movement. Really excited that Byron does put up with us because every time we have an idea, it's he's the one that has to figure out how this idea works and
or if it can work.
If it can work.
Or the big question, I'm sure the big answer is how much do you want to spend?
There you go. Yeah, we can do a lot of things.
With a lot of money. So
well, the good thing about his department is he's never said no. Now he has often said, well, we might need to do this, which is exactly right. I mean, it's nice to see in our department solutions and not no's, and that's what we're aiming for is all of our ideas aren't good ideas, but sometimes maybe there's something in there that works, and they're great at finding that. So
excellent. We're out of time, but thank you so much. Hope to have you come back again another day in the future, Byron. And Mayor, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We'll see you next time. This is KSVP.